The Great Flood and the Giants and Extraterrestrial Ancient Aliens. Leonard Farah writes, in a previous blog, he says, I drew attention to the flood because legend says that this happened when Earth people had their last contact with the civilized beings who they called the gods that came from the sky. There are hundreds of legends about a great flood. Some scholars believe they relate to the end of the Ice Age and that this story has been passed over the past 10,000 years. But there is something wrong with this theory. Melting ice might cause water levels to rise, but the early Middle Eastern legends say that the flood was caused by several days of continuous torrential rain. Robert Ballard, renowned for the discovery of the Titanic and the German battleship Bismarck, and one of the world's most famous deep-sea explorers, was involved in underwater research in the Black Sea, seeking evidence to support a theory that this sea was inundated by a catastrophic flood around 7,500 years ago, and which was thought to be the biblical flood. There may have been flooding in the region at the time, but the Middle Eastern deluge legends can be traced back to the ancient Sumerians, whose writings and archaeological evidence suggest that this catastrophe was caused by the Anunnaki, who many believe to be extraterrestrials around 5,000 years ago. People in various parts of the early world had traditions of a series of past eras, the legends of the world ages, and it was popular among the Aztecs, the Mayas, the Greeks, Picts, the people in India, and also alluded to Plato's story of Atlantis. The number of past ages varies in different cultures, but the story is basically the same. As each age evolved, men became evil, and so a god or the gods came to earth and destroyed them with water or fire. The world was then repopulated by the survivors. After helping them start a new age, the gods returned to the heavens and were not seen again. The present age, according to the Mayan and Hindu calendars, began within a few years of each other, around 5,100 years ago, after the destruction of the previous era. And the indications are that this tradition was based on something which actually happened. The climate at the time went haywire, and there was heavy rainfall. Sea levels rose in several places, and the massive eruption took place in the Atlantic. Many people around the world were also on the move. Hundreds of villages were established, and some existing villages expanded into towns. Pyramid building civilizations suddenly rose in the old and new worlds, and some people, such as the Egyptians and Sumerians, were more advanced than people in later generations. Many people associated the flood with the Pleiades, with which the civilizers of man were frequently linked. Various versions of the star god religion sprang up around the world, regardless of whether among early civilizations or primitive people, they all associated a serpent with the gods. These star god religions continued for thousands of years until they were suppressed by the churches as pagan, and some of the early traditions were still popular in recent times, and they became intermingled with new beliefs. There was a thread running through many of the sky god religions, legends, and customs, and it's been passed on over the years until the present. And the writer says in my book, The Pleiades Legacy of the Old World, I've shown how it's influenced the titles of famous films, books, and songs, and the names of many commercial products. There is also another intriguing aspect of the story, for the Bible says that there was a race of giants in the pre-deluge era, Genesis 6:4. This is also alluded to the allegorical Jewish legend, which tells how a giant called Og asked for permission to enter the ark. Stories about giants were popular in many parts of the early world, and the remains of remarkably tall people have also been discovered. In 1190, at Glastonbury Abbey in Somerset, England, monks discovered a stone slab on which they found a Latin inscription about the burial of King Arthur. After digging down 16 feet, they discovered a huge wooden tree coffin which contained the remains of an 8-foot tall man and a woman. Anthony Roberts says that there is no evidence to confirm that the man was Arthur, who was never said to have been a giant. This method of burial, he adds, dates back 5,000 years, near the era of British giants. The May 1947 edition of the National Geographic magazine reported another fascinating discovery in the island of Lundy in the Bristol Channel off the coast of Devon, England. Excavations above Lundy's western shore uncovered a massive crypt built with huge blocks of granite, and inside it were two huge stone coffins. In one of them, there was a skeleton of a man 8 foot 2 inches tall, and the other a 7 foot 8 inches tall woman. Discoveries of the remains of giant people have also been reported in Scotland, North Africa, and North America, and some of these people were not just average height. Austrian researcher Klaus Donner, renowned for his collection of artifacts and reports of remains of giant people in different countries, in an interview with Regina Meredith on Edge Media, Klaus told of the discovery in Ecuador of dislocated bones of a person who was an incredible 7.6 meters tall. That's over 25 feet tall. There have been reports of the remains of a giant in Utah in the U.S., and legends of pre-deluge race of giants among the primitive native Shuara people in Brazil. One famous megalithic site associated with the post-deluge race of giants is Baalbek in Lebanon, although the Romans had temples there, and earlier people built megalithic structures at the site, possibly thousands of years earlier. Baalbek's Trialithon is comprised of 3 blocks of hewn stone, each weighing 750 tons, but even more amazing is another block of hewn stone estimated to weigh at least 1,000 tons. Nobody knows how these stones were moved. Could it be that some of the early people had a form of anti-gravity equipment? Klaus Donner and other alternative researchers have also investigated the remains of people known as the Coneheads, whose bizarre-shaped skulls have been found in the Andes and Russia. The Maya and others also altered the shape of their children's heads from birth. Ignatius Donnelly, for example, says that in early days this custom was practiced among Basques, Caledonians, Scandinavians, and Anglo-Saxons, and people in Normandy, he adds, were still flattening the heads of their children in the early part of the 17th century. When Professor Baudouin was examining some ancient engravings on a rock surface in an estuary in Brittany, France in 1928, he was amazed to find a drawing of a bearded man with a sloped forehead inside a disc. Could it be that drawing represented a god in his home, and that many earlier people were copying the appearance of the sky gods? Over recent years, amazing discoveries have been made of early human activity or settlements now under the sea, off the coasts of India and Japan, the Caribbean Sea, and Dogger Bank, northeast of Britain. Lost civilizations have been found on the coast in South America, and other intriguing discoveries are being made at the Ness of Broger in the Orkneys and at the 12,000-year-old Göbekli Tepe site in Turkey. Klaus Donner has an amazing collection of unexplained early artifacts. He also tells of a metal cup found embedded in coal, 65 million years old, and of human footprints found in rock at the time of the dinosaurs. And this is on Solask, and is written in an article by Leonard Farah. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.